Hey everyone, Rico Reviews here. As you can tell by my shirt here, it is Wednesday. But it's not only Wednesday. What is special about today, it is the mid-season premiere, and it also marks the 100th episode of Once Upon a Time. So congratulations to the cast of crew Once Upon a Time. This is such a great accomplishment. So today I wanted to review the sassy and classy queen we all love, Barbara Hershey, aka Cora Mills. I have to say, besides Regina, Cora is definitely my favorite character on the show, just because her backstory is just so fascinating and that there's so many layers to Cora. We see her definitely had a troubled life. She met this guy who made him appear like he was a prince to Cora, and turns out he wasn't, and she ended up pregnant with his child, and he didn't want anything to do with her or the baby. And she meets Prince Leopold, and they kind of get to know each other and hit it off, and they were engaged until Princess Eva revealed Cora's pregnancy to Leopold. So of course they didn't get married then, and that forced Cora to give Zelina up. And I just think that if Queen Eva didn't reveal that to Prince Leopold, how different Zelina's life could be. And you see Zelina and Eve, not Zelina, you see Cora and Eva meet again when Cora brings straw to the palace and she drops it all over the place because Eva trips her, and she says in front of the court that she can spin straw in the gold, which brings us to the classic Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale. And this is when she meets Rumpelstiltskin for the first time, and the deal is that he'll teach her how to spin straw in the gold, but she has to give him her firstborn child, and they get to know each other, and what appears is that they're falling in love, and Rumpel actually changes the deal that she has to give them their firstborn child. And what was interesting about this particular episode is we got to see where Cora's famous line, "Love is weakness," came from. And it actually came from her father-in-law, King Xavier, when he said that love is weakness and that royalty and status are everything. In that moment, it changed Cora's life forever because she decided to rip her own heart out so she wouldn't be able to feel anything anymore. And she kind of went back on her and Rumpel's deal to give him their firstborn child. And I kind of had a theory going on that Rumpel was Regina's biological father, just because he mentioned that he held her as a baby, and the fact that Rumpel did kind of take Regina under his wing and try to and teach her magic. So I kind of thought that for a while, but turns out so far that's not true. But anyway, you see, because as a result of that, Cora couldn't be the mother that she wanted to be. We didn't really get to see much of Regina's childhood. I'm hoping we'll get to see more of that this season. But we do get to see a teenage Regina, and you see that Cora, in her own twisted way, wants what's best for Regina, but it's very dark. Like, she definitely does not want Regina to go through all the troubles and heartache that she's went through. And she definitely does not approve of Regina loving the stable boy Daniel. And what I'll mention later is that her and Snow meeting wasn't an accident. And we also learned that Cora is the one who manipulated Snow into telling her about Regina and Daniel, and as a consequence of that, Cora rips out Daniel's heart right in front of Regina, and that is so traumatic. And in that moment, that is when the evil queen is born. And you could definitely see in that episode that Cora definitely does not have her heart, because she doesn't even comfort Regina at all. She said, enough of this, I've had enough. Pull yourself together because you're going to be queen. I'm like, oh my gosh, how heartless can you be? I mean, no pun intended there. And you see that really has Regina wanting to get rid of her mother. And Rumple tries to persuade her to use magic, and Regina is hesitant to because she doesn't want to turn in her mother. That's like her worst fear. And she eventually does get the strength to push Cora through the looking glass, and she's sent off to Zutherland. And that kind of gave a clue to who Cora's other character was with the whole looking glass and the whole hearts references. We find out that Cora is the Queen of Hearts, and I was hoping in the Once in Wonderland series we would see the Queen of Hearts. I mean, how can you have a series about Wonderland and not have the Queen of Hearts? And she was in the second to last episode of the series, and in one of Cora's sassier lines, she says to Anastasia that she would prefer her as a daughter because her own daughter was a disappointment. And I'm like, which one was she referring to? But we also learn that she's the one who taught Anastasia magic, and Cora also reveals in that episode what the laws of magic are. That you can't bring back the dead, you can't make somebody fall in love with you, and you can't change the past. And that kind of has a lot to do with Zelina's storyline in season 3. Regina does see Cora again on the anniversary of Daniel's death, and Cora tries to she wants to see Regina happy, and she wants to help her find her true love, and she goes to help her find Robin Hood, but she meets the Sheriff of Nottingham, and she uses magic to put the lion tattoo on his wrist that Regina knew about. And Regina's smart. She knew about it, and she learned that Cora wanted Regina to have a child. So that made me think that, was she sincere that she wanted to help Regina find her true love, or was that just a ploy to have herself be royal? And in that episode we learned that Regina took this potion to make herself infertile, and Cora tried to talk her out of it, but Regina reminded Cora that she always said love was weakness, and then she took the potion, and it seemed that Cora was genuinely concerned about Regina, but Regina pushes her away and wants her out of her life. But Cora is definitely not out of her life. She reappears when Hook tries to rip out her heart when Regina orders him to kill her. And she's like, oh, silly pirate, do you really think I'd keep my heart where everybody else does? I'm like, no, Cora's too smart for that. So her and Hook kind of have this alliance going on, and you see Cora wants to rip out Regina's heart, and Cora makes it look like that she's dead, and Regina says this speech that she wouldn't become the person she is without Cora, and even without her heart, that kind of meant something to Cora, and that made her not rip Regina's heart out. And Cora is actually the reason why part of the fairy tale land wasn't affected by the curse. They were just frozen for 28 years. And that kind of dives into season 2 when you see Emma and Mary Margaret battling Cora, trying to get back to Storybrooke. And in the first episode, you see Emma meets Cora, and Cora mentions how the apple definitely didn't fall from the tree. It's right. She's trying to make it appear to Emma that she's innocent, but she's definitely not. And you see her and Emma and Mary Margaret battle it, and what was quite interesting is that Cora could not rip out Emma's heart, and we learned that love is strength, and the expression on Cora's face was priceless because she's like, what? It was funny, but as Cora is always very determined, and she found a way to Storybrooke, and she kind of didn't let herself know right away. She kind of was observing how Regina's life was in Storybrooke, and she learned that the people still don't accept her. So she framed Regina for Archie's death. So of course they automatically thought it was Regina. And Cora met with Regina again, and she brought one of her most prized possessions, something that Henry made for her. And she convinced Regina to side with her, that they can get their family back and everything they wanted. And Regina's like, how? And she's like, oh, I have a few thoughts. I'm like, oh, the Queen of Hearts is back. So you see Hook, Regina, and Cora trying to find out where the dagger is. And what I found quite funny is that Cora had Regina digging. Like, she didn't want to get her hands dirty. Like, and I absolutely think Cora's better for supervisory role. So I thought that was classic Cora. What we also learn in one of the episodes is that Cora is the reason that Snow's mother dies. So Cora definitely got her revenge in a way. But then it was kind of turned around, because in that same episode you see, and I think I mentioned this in my Ginny/Snow White episode last week, when Snow was offered this candle that if she lit it, it would save her mom, but it would take somebody else's life in return. And we didn't know that was Cora disguised as a blue fairy. But in this episode, The Miller's Daughter, which is probably one of my favorite out of the whole series, Snow actually lights the candle and over Cora's heart, and that starts the, I don't know if you'd call it a spell, but that starts the magic of the candle. And what I found very heartbreaking is that how Mary Margaret manipulated Regina into putting Cora's heart back inside her. Like, she couldn't be blamed, like Snow couldn't be blamed for it, because she knew that all Regina wanted was for Cora to love her for who she was and to accept her, and just wanted her mother to love her. So when Regina put Cora's heart back inside her, and in like a split moment, you actually saw Cora glowing in a way. Like, she was genuinely happy to see her daughter, and you think that they're going to get a second chance. And it was so sad and heartbreaking to see Cora fall to the ground and die in Regina's arms. And when she says, this would have been enough, you would have been enough, I'm like, this is so sad. Like, I definitely hope this is the last we see of Cora. Which we've learned that it definitely is not the last. But what I found interesting, before I forget to mention this, in that same episode, before she tries to kill Rumple, she says, why do you think I had to rip my own heart out? You were my weakness. You were the thing that I love most. And I disagree with that. I believe that even after all the twisted and evil things she did to Regina, I believe that Regina is the thing that Cora loves most in the world. But like I said, was definitely not the last we've seen of Cora, and I definitely love how we can't go a season without Cora being in it, and why not? Cora is awesome. Barbara Hershey is just amazing playing Cora. In season 3, you see the younger version of Cora, and you see the whole why she had to give Zelena up. And with Zelena's whole plan for season 3, you see her break the laws of magic. So, and I honestly believe that Zelena's happy ending isn't ruining Regina's life and making her miserable. I believe that Zelena honestly does all these things to make Cora proud of her and to be worthy in Cora's eyes and to be worthy of her love, because that's what she's always wanted. Zelena's never had a mother, and she just wants Cora to love her like she loved Regina. And we saw her in season 4 in that flashback episode I mentioned, when she tried to help Regina find her love, and then Regina took the potion. And I was so happy to hear that Cora would be back for this season in the Souls of the Departed episode. I am so happy they decided to bring her back. From what I can tell, that she's the mayor of the underworld. I'm not sure what kind of role that has against Hades, but it seems like from the pictures that her and Regina have a happy reunion, so I'm very happy to see that, and I'm actually very interested to see what Cora is like with her heart now versus before with her heart, and then versus without her heart. So I'm very curious to see what she thinks of Regina now and the person she's become, and if she'll approve of Robin Hood, because she definitely didn't approve of a stable boy. I don't know if she'll approve of a thief. And that still makes me think of if she'll be proud of Zelena and her quote-unquote accomplishments and her having a baby with Regina's love, or will Regina be happy of Regina being the hero? And I also learned that there'll be an episode that tells about Regina and Zelena's childhood, so I'm hoping we'll get to see Cora again. I hope this isn't the first and last episode of Cora. And when I think of Cora, it also makes me think of the question of what is true love, because I definitely think that you see true love between a prince and a princess, you see it between sisters, but what's interesting is that I want to see the true love between mother and a daughter, and I definitely think that Cora and Regina have a complicated relationship, but I'm hoping that they can mend the bond, and I hope that they can reunite and kind of, I don't know where to say this, kind of let go of the past. I mean, talk about the past and just let it out and help Regina cope with what she did. And I hope that Cora can say to Regina how sorry she is and actually be sincere about it. Be sorry for all the things that she's done, because I believe that Regina does deserve happiness, and I believe her mother should be included in that. I also think that Lana and Barbara definitely have great chemistry on the show. They seem to work very well together. They seem to be an awesome pair. Outside of Once Upon a Time, it seems that Barbara lives a private life. She was in a lot of classic movies, one of them being my favorite movie, Beaches, which I'll be reviewing tomorrow for my Movie Monday review. She also is starring in this new series called Damien, which is about the Antichrist, and I don't know if I'll watch it or not. Horror shows and movies aren't usually my cup of tea, but I think I might give this a try, and I might watch that and review Damien for my TV Show Thursday review. So you might call this Barbara Hershey week. I really think that Barbara should definitely go to one of the Once Upon a Time conventions, because Cora, and I don't know if Barbara knows this, but she has a ton of fans. Cora has a huge fan base, and Cora definitely needs a name for her followers, like how Lana has a name for her followers, Evil Regals. Jennifer Morrison has Ugly Ducklings. Well, I don't know about Barbara, but I definitely came up with a name for Cora's followers. I think Cora's followers should be called Heartbreakers, because that is definitely Cora's favorite pastime, to just take out a heart and just crush it. So I definitely think that Cora's followers should be called Heartbreakers. I don't know, does it get the Barbara Hershey approval? We'll have to see what Her Majesty thinks of that. But I definitely think that she should go to one of the conventions. I'm going to my first Once Upon a Time convention this year, and I'm always looking to see if Barbara will be a guest there, because I would just love to get my picture taken or an autograph with the Queen of Hearts. I just think she's truly amazing, both Barbara and Cora. I think they're both sassy and classy, and Barbara does a great job portraying her, and not, she kind of puts her own spin on the Queen of Hearts and her own spin on Cora. So if you want to catch Barbara's new show Damien, it is on A&E, and it premieres actually tomorrow at 10 p.m. And if you want to see Cora return, if you want to see Cora in the underworld and reunite with Regina, you can watch the 100th episode of Once Upon a Time called Souls of the Departed. The mid-season premieres tonight, 8 p.m. on ABC. I hope you enjoyed this Barbara Hershey / Cora review. And until next time, stay regal and be a heartbreaker.